What is up, YouTube? This is T-Quentin1 coming at you with another video, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Fantastic Four First Steps, the newest attempt to turn Marvel's first family into a half-decent movie. I always thought the Fantastic Four seemed like one of the easier comics to translate. There's cool sci-fi ideas, characters with big personalities, and an overall likable 60s Roger Moore Bond-era feel to a lot of their best stuff, but throughout most of my life, I have seen studios fumble this idea over and over again. From the boring, generic 2000s movies to the comically misguided body horror film from Josh Trank, they just can't seem to catch a break. Right off the bat, something First Steps gets right is the throwback feel. Sometimes characters simply can't be separated from the era they were created. For example, you couldn't have just put Steve Rogers in Iraq or something and had it feel genuine. He's a creation of the 40s, and a period piece was really the only way to go for him. And I think the same is true for the Fantastic Four. They are so tied in with that kind of early space program, Kennedy administration optimism that they just feel wrong in more modern settings. That's not the only reason that the other adaptations have fallen flat, but it's a big positive for this one. Is there anything else to like about this new movie other than the charming retro feel? Yeah, actually. I've been pretty down on the MCU for a while, though there have been glimpses of light coming from that dark content mine that is the Disney Plus era of this franchise. I'm not going to say what people always do when they like a post-Endgame movie and go, it's the best superhero movie in years. That'd be a lie, especially in a summer that gave us James Gunn's Superman, but it is a well-directed, solidly written movie with fun performances and a warm, optimistic feel to the whole thing. I think getting Matt Shakman was a great choice. He's one of the only actual filmmakers left at Marvel Studios, and he gives this movie an artistic flourish that helps it stand out from the poorly made slop that so much of their recent output has been. Not only does the mid-century aesthetic feel unique, but there's also a surprisingly high number of practical costumes and sets, so that the digital look that's become so oppressive is largely avoided. As for the four themselves, it reminds me of better days at Marvel, when casting was the secret ingredient. All four members of the team are performed very well, so much so that I don't think there's any question as to whether or not this version is the definitive adaptation of those characters. Pedro Pascal gives a soft-spoken dignity to Reed Richards. He already has that kind of old Hollywood look, and he's giving a performance straight out of a vintage sci-fi movie. I don't know if the pitch he's on will work with everybody, but I was grooving with it. Vanessa Kirby, already nothing short of a charisma powerhouse in Mission Impossible and Ridley Scott's Napoleon, plays the most layered version of Sue Storm we've gotten yet, and gets a lot of the movie's meatier, dramatic stuff to chew on. But it's Ben and Johnny that stole the show for me. Both casting decisions I was pretty skeptical about, and in both cases, I was just plain wrong. The friendship between those two characters is, for lack of a better word, friendlier than the other film versions. They rib each other, sure, but in the other films, it's like they forgot that they're still supposed to be pals deep down. Joseph Quinn brings the perfect amount of swagger to Johnny Storm, but it's clear there's still a big heart underneath. I like that this version isn't just the goofy fuck up that the Chris Evans version was. He even shows some proficiency in science at one point without going into spoilers. And Ebon Moss-Backrack as the Thing is brilliant. I mean, it's a one-to-one translation of Jack Kirby's version of the character, and it was a joy to see on screen. Probably the best casting we've had since the OG Avengers split. I mean, I can't think of anybody else that just got it so close. I've never been all that impressed with him as an actor before, although I admit I never watched the role that got him acclaim in the first place. All four of them play so well off each other. That family unit from the comics that has never really made it to the screen plays like gangbusters here, not just in the big picture emotional sense, but even in the smaller moments. Little jokes or bits of encouragement that let you know that these guys care about each other deep down. I like in some of the more down-to-earth scenes that they use their powers in more practical ways too. Reed subtly stretching to write a long equation, or at one point the power goes out and Johnny lights up so they can see what the hell they're doing. The film is light on action, or at least fight scenes, although there are some big jaw-dropping moments too. Ironically enough, the superhero film it most reminded me of was Richard Donner's original Superman film. While it's a warm movie that kids can enjoy, it doesn't talk down to the audience and it takes its time. It has plenty of scenes that are just interesting characters having interesting conversations. That sounds like filmmaking 101, right? But it's something that all previous attempts to make a Fantastic Four film have lacked. It's not all fantastic, however.
Say that again?
While the practical effects are a treat and the movie looks pretty appealing mostly, there is some iffy CGI, especially the Silver Surfer. Maybe this is just a character who wasn't meant to be in live action. She just looks ugly and off-putting. Granted, she's an antagonist, so I suppose that could be the point, but the design did not work for me. The big issue with First Steps is yet another hallmark of early Marvel. The villains are boring. Julia Garner and Ralph Ineson are both incredible actors, and it really sucks that they are given basically nothing to do. The Silver Surfer is just here so they can put something cool looking in the trailer, and while Garner does the best she can with what she's given, ultimately Shalla Ball doesn't have much going on. Although there is a bit of an interesting turn in the third act, but I wish they developed it a bit more. At least they try to do something different with her. The nicest thing I can say about Galactus is that he's not a cloud this time. In the comics, he's less a character than a force of nature, and I can tell that's what they're aiming for, but he ends up coming across as shallow and ill-defined. Again, like those early Marvel movies, it's not enough to ruin the film, but it's a knock against it. It's a shame, too, because look at him. Look how perfect he looks. For the most part, I think Fantastic Four First Steps is a fun popcorn movie. It's effective. Funnily enough, on the fourth try, we finally got a solid Fantastic Four movie. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Before I go, I've talked a lot about the dire state of comic book films in this review, but having two good films in such a short span, especially with as much in common as Superman and First Steps have, gives me some hope for the future. The number one thing that makes both of these films so appealing is that the emotional stakes at the heart of the story feel genuine. They're big, fun movies, sure, and I laughed a lot in both, but they take the material seriously. The big lesson that I hope studios take from those films, especially after the critical and box office success of the former, is that this is out.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
And sincerity is in. At least I hope so. This is T. Quentin 1 signing out.